Okay, so here we are back working on 14-23 from page 676 of our book, and it's question 4 from your week 7 homeworks. It's the chapter 14 homework where we're doing like all the different kinds of calculating returns and things like that. So I'm going to go out to Connect and we will do requirement. I think we're going to do up to 3 and we're going to do 4 also. All right, we're out there. Okay, so here we are. So we've done requirement 1, payback period, requirement 2, net present value, and now we're going to do internal rate of return. Okay, so internal rate of return is what we need. And to do this, we need to think back to when we did our payback period and our net present value, and we calculated the net cash flow, not the discounted cash flow, the net cash flow, which for product A was 60,000 and for product B was 130,000, right? You remember those? Okay, so we need the net cash flows to do this, and we need our investment, and then we're going to need our present value of an annuity table. All right, so I'm going to get my little notebook up here. All right, so the investment required, right? Well, that's just right from here. It's 170,000. So 170,000 for product A, and product B it was 380,000. So I'm just straight up picking up the investment from here, right? This is what we have to, money we have to put in. And then, okay, I don't, oh, sorry, you don't care about SAP. So the net cash flow, remember we calculated that both in payback period and net present value, but it's the cash flow, the net cash flow, not the present value, right? So for product A, that was 60,000, and for product B, that was 130,000. All right, so now we have to figure out our factor. So it's pretty easy. We take the investment and divide it by the cash flow, and we come up with a number. So 170,000 divided by 60,000 is equal to 2.83. And for product B, our factor is 380,000 divided by 130,000, and that ends up being 2.923. All right, so there's our factors. So these kind of look like something I've seen before. Yes, I remember. I've seen something kind of like this on my present value table, right? So these are annuities, right? The 60,000 is every year we're going to get that much cash. 130, we're going to get that much cash. So if this is our internal rate of return, what does that translate into in terms of percentages? So we go to our present value of an annuity, right? And we go on the 5-year line until we find the number or something close to it. So we're first looking for 2.833. All right, so let's go along the 5-year line, and 2.8. Okay, so if you look here, 2.80, 2.86, so it's about halfway in between 22 and 23, right? So I think it would be possible to interpolate and come up with the exact number, but the book is fine with us estimating, so we're going to call that 22.5%. All right, so internal rate of return for product A is 22.5. All right, so all I did was take this number, and I know it's a 5-year cash flow, so I just followed along. So now I'm going to take this number, 2.923. 2.923. So I'm going to find something similar to that, and I'm still using present value of an annuity, and it's still 5 years. So I follow that, and I'm looking for 2.923. So that's pretty close to 21, right? 2.926, 2.923. I mean, that's pretty dang close. We're just going to call that 21. All right. So product B is 21%. All right, so that's pretty easy. So we did our internal rates of return. So product A is a little bit higher, as it turns out. And of course, the difference there is the amount you have to invest, right? So you invest a lot less to get your 60,000 cash flow than you do to get your 130. But it's still pretty close. But obviously, if you're going strictly by IRR, you would prefer product A. All right, so the next one is, so let's move on to 4, profitability index. So calculate the profitability index. So we got A and B again. Going to do our profitability index. So this is that. We're going to calculate that right here. And this, of course, was internal rate of return. All right. So here's your profitability index. So for this, instead of the net cash flow, we need the present value of the cash flows. And we calculated those for over here, right? When we did that, right? So there you go. We've calculated that number when we did this problem here. Now that's the net present value of the whole thing. Okay, so don't use these numbers. This is the net present value. Remember, we took out the investment to get that number. The number I'm going with is the net present value of just the cash flows. Okay, so the net present value of just the cash flows was, for product A, it was 196,440. Remember, we took our 60,000 times the factor from it, right? It was 60,000 times 3.274, and the other one was 130,000 times, right? And so we're talking about the present value of the cash flows, all right? Not the net present value. All right, and then so the present value of 130,000, right? Was 130,000 every year for 5 years, discounted at that. What was that? Discounted at 3.274 was 425,620. Okay, so we've got the present value of our cash flows. Again, this is the net cash flow, right? In other words, an actual at the end of year 1, you'd have $60,000, but you discount that, right? So after 5 years of getting 60,000 discounted, you actually, the present value of the cash flows is 196,440. Okay, now the investment required hasn't changed. It's still 170,000. And over here, it's still 380. Right, okay. And now it's pretty simple. We just take that present value of the cash flow, divide it by our investment, and we come up with a 1.16 for product A and 425,000 divided by 380,000 is equal to 1.12. Right, so there's our profitability index, right? Okay, so again, product A looking a little nicer for us. But again, they're still real cute. You know, they're still real close. Not a big difference. So anyway, that's the profitability index. And we will come back in the next video and we'll do the rest of the problem, 5, 6A, and 6B.